This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the program. It's Monday, January the 12th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams, he's produced the program. Let's get the week off to a flying start. That can only happen if you join us live on the air. So if you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 86-26. So let's check in on how the Newfoundland Regiment did over the weekend. They were in St. John to take on the Sea Dogs. Bounced back with a 4-3 overtime victory yesterday, so coming home on a winning air. So Marek Danicic, hat-trick goal in overtime to get the 4-3 victory. Goaltender Louis-Antoine Dano, first star of the game with 36 saves on the afternoon. So there you go. They're back in town. 4 games starting on Thursday when the Rimouski Oceanic come to town. All right, we knew this was coming for quite a long time, but now it's official. Canadian men's tennis player Milos Raonic is retiring. Did it via social media over the course of the weekend. Had a pretty good career, to say the very least. So 8 ATP Tour titles. Reached the final, of course, of the Wimbledon back in 2016. Unfortunately lost that day to Andy Murray. All right. So at his peak, he was number 3 in the world. So he was a force on tour for quite a number of years. Then, of course, injuries caught up with him, and Raonic really had, an injury-shortened career, but a pretty stellar one at that. Milos Raonic, the best men's tennis player we've ever produced, is now done. All right, congratulations to whoever these group of snowplow operators in the province who are coming together to help cancer patients clear their driveway with their plows. So bravo to all hands. So the person who's quoted in the story, Mark Baker, started the Snow Clearing for Cancer initiative, and a bunch of other operators have also joined forces. So we know in one of the quotes, cancer patients will be matched with snow clearing operators who are donating their services for free. Absolutely brilliant. So if you're a cancer patient, post-surgery, getting treatment, or hospice, operators are going to donate their services for free. That's a terrific initiative, and bravo to all of the operators who joined forces there. All right. So when Crab Rebate Day came and went last week, I mentioned that there was a copious volume of emails from furious harvesters, and it did not stop over the weekend. So you know the deal. Now the crab rebate came in at 28 cents, so that made it $5.25 a pound. The FFAW, many harvesters, they were banking on $1. There's a long way between 28 cents and $1. Directly coming from the president of the FFAW, if they don't straighten it out, that means the government and the Association for Seafood Producers, if they don't straighten it out in short order, the president says that the companies will be hit hard where it hurts the most, the pocketbook. There will be no spring crab fishery, so says Dwan Street. I don't even know what the next step of intervention is here. Do people expect the provincial government to get directly involved in this and to put their hand on the balance of the scales and make a change between 28 cents to whatever upward tick that the harvesters would like to see? But boy, oh boy, the level of frustration and anger via email ever since the rebate was announced is unbelievable. Well, that's not even the right word. It's serious, to say the very least. So for harvesters who'd like to chime in on it, we can absolutely do it. But boy, when people are expecting $1 in a rebate and it comes in at 28 cents, whew, man, and they are furious. A couple of comments I made last week, apparently not sitting well with some. That's just nature of the beast. And it's a story that's about the cost of road construction, an 85% increase between 2019 and 2025. So we're not entirely sure exactly what constitutes or justifies that whopping big increase, but just for context. All right. So work on excluding the Trans-Canada Highway, $330,000 in 2019 to over $610,000 in 2025 per kilometer. So the comment that was not well received is that I said, unless there's another huge increase in budgeting for road construction, there fewer kilometers are going to get done. Back in 2019, the budget was $166 million and it grew to $320 million. We also know there was a 10-year plan announced in March of 2023. The largest ever 5-year investment in highway and road infrastructure. $1.4 billion plan stretches over 5 construction seasons. And there was a hopeful goal of the number of kilometers to be attended to with that monies. It's going to be fewer. It just is. So I'm not so sure why someone would be quite mad at me for saying the blatantly obvious. Unless there's more money, there will be fewer kilometers paved. Why? Because the cost has jumped 85% between 2019 and 2025. So we hear a lot of concerns, understandably so, about road conditions in various parts of the province, including around the metro region. And boy, oh boy, for municipalities and their responsibility for roads, fewer kilometres will be done. For the provincial government and their responsibility, fewer kilometres will be done unless there's a huge increase in the budget for it. But you want to take it on. And some of the emails about it also included the possibility for cell phone coverage to be boosted or expanded, because you're right. If you couple bad roads, and whether it be moose or just mechanical failure, if you're on a bad road and you encounter one of the aforementioned, if your cell phone doesn't have any coverage, it's absolutely a public safety issue. So some of the emails absolutely did include it. All right, this is probably good news because we do know we came through a pretty devastating wildfire season. So the province is adding 3 new weather stations to assess forest conditions. So apparently, the statement from the Canadian Forest Fire Danger Rating System. It's a national system used to rate forest fire risks, scientific models to appraise forest conditions, determine fire risk, and in addition to that, possible fire behavior. So I guess this is welcome news. I don't really know how these things work, but if we can get out in front of and understand wildfire conditions and do something about it, whether it be the creation of additional fire breaks or what have you, this is probably a very good move forward. And good morning to the folks up in Conception Bay North who are in pretty constant contact with me about their questions, concerns and frustration over the aftermath of the fire. Some 200 structures lost, what the status is of the RCMP investigation into the potential cause. Many people in the area think for sure that there's arson involved in this fire. And remember the stories. I mean, residents in that area took it upon themselves to go out into the woods, find high ground, looking around for smoke. And frequently found it. And were lucky enough to be able to get to it, whether it be with their ATV or otherwise, with their extinguisher, and deal with it before it became a big fire, a big concern, because eventually it did. I don't know if there was arson associated with the Kingston fire, but boy, if you hear from folks in the area, they're pretty sure it was. So we'll see if we can't get additional information about the rebuild and what have you. And on that front, the RCMP are reporting pretty successful recruitment efforts last year. So let's see here. This according to the RCMP Commissioner Pat Cal. They've hired 52 new RCMP officers in 2025. So they kind of changed their strategy regarding recruitment and hiring process. So they weren't doing any pre-posting here in the province some years back, but now of course they changed. There was a huge number of vacancies inside the RCMP, so hopefully that 52 is going to go a long way to filling those vacancies for detachments right around the province. And you want to take on policing or what have you, let's do it. All right, I'll bring these 2 stories up again regarding criminal justice because they're important. So for starters, and the appropriate place to start is with the 3 people who were stabbed and injured when Mitchell Rose, 32-year-old St. John's man, with a mental illness, and he had been released from what they call a community treatment order. We hope they're all doing well. We understand they are. This story becomes bigger than just Mitchell Rose, and we don't know what the outcome will be in court. He's facing 3 charges of attempted murder. But when he was placed by a psychiatrist on a community treatment order, it changed the water on the beans for how he can be assessed and treated, and if there came a time where he needed to be involuntary taken into a mental health facility, that could happen. But unbeknownst to his family, there's a 6-month review. That's not unbeknownst to the family. There's a 6-month review. And when that took place, unbeknownst to the family, he was released from his community treatment order. So it's always tricky in walking a fine line because I'm by no means trying to insinuate that mental illness has the distinct possibility of violence. I'm not doing that at all. But if and when that's the case, and we're talking about medication and whether or not the assessment means that that person might be detrimental to their own well-being and or for public safety to be compromised, we really need to shore up the process. there's got to be people brought into the loop if and when someone is released from a community treatment order. At least they'll know what's going on, and maybe can take next steps to see another review conducted and or to be a little bit more mindful of what's going on with their loved one. Because in this case, 3 people were seriously injured. 3 charges of attempted murder. So I think that's a big process and system question as much as it is this particular individual and the 3 people that were unfortunately seriously injured. Your thoughts? Also, it's going to be really interesting to follow along with the case of a 19-year-old St. John's man, alleged drug dealer. He sold a drug that was not what the young person thought he was buying, and consequently the 14-year-old is dead from an overdose. So as a result, this 19-year-old who's back in prison, he was out on bail and then he broke the law again allegedly, and now he's in Her Majesty's Penitentiary. All right, facing some pretty serious charges to say the very least. A manslaughter charge, and also there's a couple other charges associated with it. All right. This seems like the right way forward, doesn't it? I mean, we know the scourge in society regarding these toxic, illicit drugs that are turning people into zombies. You know, I don't know where we go. Say, for instance, someone who's selling fentanyl or cocaine, which is the number 1 killer in this province. People lean on fentanyl all the time, but the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner said the vast majority of overdose deaths in this province last year was as a result of using cocaine, which apparently is really quite potent when compared to years past. When the dealer is selling something, for instance, you think you're getting one drug, and unfortunately you're getting a toxic mix of other drugs, and consequently this 14-year-old is dead, this seems highly appropriate for this to be the outcome and the type of charges to be laid. Will this be a precedent-setting case here in this province and maybe followed suit across the country? Because there's got to be some serious consequences for these types of criminal behavior. So I'll see where that's going to go. It's yet to be heard in court, yet to be tested in court, so we don't know whether or not the man will be found guilty, but there you go. And in that vein, we see the stories all the time. You see it in your community, you maybe see it in your social circles or even inside your family. The amount of abuse and addiction is staggering. And the province needs to acknowledge it. And we absolutely have to expand. You know, we can get out in front of it and try to deal with root causes and prevention, which is obviously makes a lot of sense. But when and if someone falls prey and falls into the death spiral of these addictions, we need easier and quicker access to detox and to trim the timeline between detox and getting into a rehab facility and ensuring the rehab facilities have enough time so that if you want the help or trying to get the help, trying to kick the habit, you can get it. And after that, we need some opportunity for some sober living. The amount of stories that we hear via email from family members of those who are addicted are heartbreaking. They absolutely are. People feel helpless. And even some of those who are living with a serious addiction feel hopeless. And that can't be the case. And we know we can do a lot more insofar as the world of education and awareness and prevention. But inevitably, many people will fall prey. And some of these drugs in particular, now we could talk about alcohol and eating disorders and gambling and what have you, but in the world of drugs, it's not your grandfather's drugs. These are much more addictive and dangerous and toxic, and you see it in the communities. Anyway, that's a big one, but we should indeed be talking about it. All right, let's talk about a little air travel. Interesting story last week about just the tight, cramped quarters on aircraft. Some of these aircrafts have been rejigged to accommodate more passengers. Consequently, you're losing some space. This one is about government intervention and interference from the government into the Canadian Transportation Agency. So they're supposed to be independent. And for the most part, it feels like they've been operating independently for a long time, but apparently not now. Documents reveal pretty clearly that government is getting involved and trying to dissuade the imposition of a fee for the airlines to cover the cost of the disputes and the claims filed the Canadian Transportation Agency. Now, as taxpayers, we're footing the bill. There was legislation passed, and it was told that the airlines are going to be charged a fee of $790 per claim, but they're not. And so minister after minister has been involved and lobbying CTA to keep that fee off the books, which is ridiculous. You know, we should not, as taxpayers, be paying for this stuff. If there's a piece of legislation and an agreement was struck, even though the airlines have been meeting through their lobbyists with government a lot, CTA has not imposed that fee. Let's get at it. That's the right path forward, and government should stay out of that. I mean, if you're going to say and pretend that CTA, the Canadian Transportation Agency, operates independently, nothing screams independence like government interference. So let's get out of that. And the backlog at CTA is forecasted to grow exponentially into the future because the problems in the industry are real. I've got some people who work in the airline industry who, every time we bring it up, get really quite crooked or cross, and they can feel free to send whatever they like. All right, a couple of quickies before we get to you. How are we doing out there, Dave? All right. It's hard to know where to start with some of the things that are going on here in this world, but let's get at it. For instance, plenty of talk about wind, and not windmills, wind turbines in this province, and we're absolutely happy to take it on from any angle. And you know, what people say matters. And look, we should be talking about provincial matters and national matters, but it's hard to avoid the elephant in the room when we talk about international matters. There's some serious things happening in various parts of the world that does indeed have implications in this province and in this country. Let's start with China. So the Prime Minister is going to make his way to China. I believe he leaves tomorrow. And then he's going to visit Qatar. And then he's, of course, what will get some people, he's then going to Switzerland to attend the World Economic Forum, the annual meetings in Davos, the collection of some of the biggest blowhards on the face of the earth, flying privately and lecturing the rest of us. The keynote speech to be offered at the World Economic Forum this year, Donald Trump. So there's that. The issue regarding China is going to be a difficult threading of a needle. I mean, just think back to things like the imposition of a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, and then the implications and the retaliatory tariffs on canola. China is the largest importer of canola and canola oils in this world. Canada's the #1 exporter. We've got farmers that have been hurt pretty severely here. There's no question China's going to want more Canadian oil. We can talk about capacity to actually get the bitumen to market in this country, but the issues regarding national security, and just remember, Michael Spavor, Michael Korvig, who were detained by the Chinese Communist government for all those months and years. So there's a lot here to consider. Should we be doing business with China? I think it's unavoidable. I would imagine there's going to be a trip to India in the not too distant future as well. And this trip was upon invitation from President Xi to Prime Minister Carney. So it's going to draw some serious questions and concerns about it, but it's probably unavoidable to try to, if people are talking about diversification of markets, well, China's a big one. But it does come with some national security risks. There's no question about it. The federal government is talking about the guardrails in place and what have you. But then a topic that doesn't get much conversation in this country regarding relationships with China is that bloody FIPA deal. So it was very quietly done and negotiated in secrecy beginning in 2012. It took 2 years to ratify it. It's called the Foreign Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement with China, a 31-year deal that really does show very little benefit to Canada, signed by then Prime Minister Harper. And again, it was done in darkness. So if Canada finds any deal unsatisfactory, it cannot be cancelled completely for 31 years. It's got a bunch of different implications, but it's remarkable to me that that FIPA deal gets very little consideration and political conversation when it does indeed hamstring this country and handcuff this country for quite a long time, 31 years. All right. I don't know if you want to get into some of what we see in the United States, but, you know, like even when we have wind conversations here in this country, and there's a lot of those continuing across the country, and certainly in this province, and it's not windmills, it's wind turbine. But then you hear the president say, you wouldn't be able to find a single wind turbine in China. The countries with the most installed wind power capacity in the world is China. And they're adding a ton of megawattage to the grid via wind. And we can take on all the wind-related conversations here, as we should. Then it's how the media covers a bunch of things. Look, if I was doom scrolling a little bit on the weekend, I try to give my poor old brain a break on the weekend from social media, but I couldn't resist on Saturday afternoon, and it was really quite dark. And again, it's not Canadian, but it absolutely infiltrates Canadian political discourse, and specifically what you see going on in Minneapolis. If you want to talk about the ice age in business, look, political violence is only going to heighten in the United States of America. You can just smell it. So if when this ice age and John Ross, whether or not he's going to be charged, which I think he probably will be, in his role in the shooting death of Renee Good, that looks like it's going to happen. And then what? look out. And even the way the media in this country is covering it. Toronto Sun reporter and Ottawa bureau chief is a fellow named, what's his bloody name? Brian Pacifume. And here's his tweet, now deleted. In this case, the far left ended up catching a few well-deserved bullets for their miscalculation. I mean, we can dissect media coverage of a variety of things, but man, oh man, it is a dark time in many pockets of this country and south of the border. I don't know really what to say about it, but it's just mind-boggling. And last one. And it's not just the aftermath of this ICE agent shooting in Minneapolis. It's about some of the things that get disseminated on the heels of. Artificial intelligence is going to be the death of us. I mean, to see some of the obviously AI-generated images is really going to be making it more and more difficult in the future to understand what we're looking at and whether or not it's actually real. And the people behind it are pure evil. They really are. If we can't have honest conversations about the most serious things in the world, we're doomed. Absolutely doomed. To make this all left versus right, right versus left, is really going to be part of the ceasing of well-functioning societies. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic because you can see it as clearly as I can. And promise the very last one. And this has direct implications in Canada. And the president has said he's going to have Greenland one way or the other, the easy way or the hard way. So not ruling out military intervention, which would absolutely include some ramifications for Canada and maybe the death of NATO. Can we all be honest? The most powerful person on the planet is the President of the United States, and he's clearly unwell. So while so many people focus in on Joe Biden's rapidly declining stamina, cognitive performance, I get it. Are we not able to acknowledge the very same thing with the current president? We can talk about cover-ups of the Epstein files or whatever else you want to talk about. But if the most powerful person on the planet is on a rampage, that's bad for the world. And it's not about Republican or Democrat. It's about an individual. And here we are. It's right in front of us. People can feel free to acknowledge it or not. We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. That means you're in the queue to talk about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's begin this morning on line number one. Say good morning to the program coordinator at Food on the Move. That's Les Perry. Good morning, Les. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me this morning.
Some people might be familiar with the pop-up that is Food on the Move, but give the folks an understanding of what we're talking about.
So Food on the Move is a social enterprise with Food First NL. We've been operating for just over 3 years now. We set up in community centers as well as Memorial University and College of the North Atlantic. We sell fresh produce for $2 each or 3 items for $5. We've also been having our friends from the public library join us with their Library on the Go program at all of our locations. So you're able to check out books, sign up for new library cards, learn all about their great services. And we've recently had Newfoundland Health Services actually joining us over the past year, bringing along different folks from that do some service navigation. So if you're trying to figure out how to get a family doctor or looking for like some nutrition advice, they're there to help out as well.
How are you able to hit the affordability target? Because that's pretty attractive prices that you just mentioned.
We buy in wholesale, so we're looking at purchasing in much larger quantities. Then we're able to pass it down, break down our products and sell it as a pretty good price to folks. We've been able to maintain that price for the last 3 years. It's one of the points that's been really important to our program, giving people like a reliable, affordable price. You can always count on $2 each or 3 for $5 right now.
Which is, when compared to the traditional grocery store, it's pretty incentivizing for people to get to the Food on the Move. Do you only operate here in the metro region?
Right now, yes. We've been focused in the St. John's area. We've had some great support from the city of St. John's throughout the program. Obviously, we'd love to see different markets like this happening in other areas, but for our capacity right now, this area has been our focus.
And give us an idea of some of the pop-ups so people can visit this week.
So tomorrow we'll be down at 77 Charter Avenue, which is our home base with Food First and L. So we'll be there from 11 o'clock until 1 o'clock. So anyone can show up at any of our markets. So just show up, come to the door, and we'll be all set up. On Wednesday, you'll find us at Buckmaster Circle Community Center, same time, 11 to 1. And then on Thursday, we'll be at Memorial University. We'll be at the third floor of the University Center, set up from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. There, we're open a little bit longer because it's a little bit busier at the university.
No question. So is that space what people know as the Loft?
Yes.
Okay. And Charter Avenue tomorrow, that's down in Pleasantville for people who are not familiar with the street names in that part of the city. So it's great that this is happening, and it's great for people that live in this area. Are there any plans into the future to expand outside of St. John's?
We don't have any plans right at this moment to expand out with this particular program. But if there's anybody out there listening that thinks this is a good idea, we can't be everywhere at all times, but I'm always happy to teach folks what we're doing. We got a lot of ideas from other mobile markets that were happening around Canada to make this program happen. So happy to teach folks. So if we're not able to operate it ourselves, if you want to learn how to do it, yeah, give me a shout, and happy to help out. Is
this a year-round operation?
Yep. In the wintertime and whenever the weather's a little bit off, we'll be moving indoors. But throughout the spring and the summer, we set up tents outdoors. So it's got a little bit more of a farmer's market feel when we're outside. But 12 months of the year.
What sort of products will be on hand? I mean, we just talking root vegetables, or is there fruit, or what will people see?
Root vegetables, fruit, kind of all depends on whatever we can get our hands on. Pretty consistently, we'll have our carrots, turnips, onions, potatoes, and then we've had everything from bananas, oranges, apples. We try to keep it a really nice selection on the table of whatever we can get.
Let's appreciate the time this morning. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
That's Les Perry, Program Coordinator, Food on the Move. I mean, for folks who are in close proximity to Charter Avenue or Buckmaster Circle or Memorial University, that's pretty attractive pricing. And you just heard some of the products that will be on hand. So for produce, maybe every now and then, some oranges, bananas, what have you. So good for those folks who are working on that. And insofar as production of food and accessibility to food, proximity to food, at some point, it'd be great to hear from the provincial government on agricultural-related matters. It'd actually be great to hear from the government on anything. And, get the House reopened. Let's get some answers to some of the questions people are posing. But, there was an expansion of some 64,000 hectares of land for agricultural purposes. Not so sure what's been achieved on that front. And that story is 5, 6, 7 years old. But then when you talk about leafy greens, I mean, we all see the stories, and even some of the qualities of produce that we see in the stores, unfortunately, because of the distance traveled, maybe some hiccups with Marine Atlantic or otherwise, some of it's not that attractive. The vast majority of leafy greens, lettuce in particular, that you see in this province comes from Southern California. We can grow it here. We can. It would be better, probably more nutritious, because the quicker you put it on your plate, it absolutely improves the nutritious value of. Even price would be, you would have to imagine, reduced given you back out all the transportation costs. So we can pop up these hydroponic greenhouses wherever we want, in any part of the province. It does indeed cost a fair bit of money for the establishment of. Upfront costs are pretty significant. But I think there's a real value-added proposition here if the province, whether it be with interest-free repayable loans and or some grants or subsidies, to just make hydroponics a bit more of a feature in the food production world here. And we do know that some of the numbers we've used about, we rely on some 90% of importation of food. That's kind of a skewed number. That might be a big grocery retailer number as opposed to the copious amount of food that's actually produced here in the province. But anyway, let's get a break in. When we come back, the topic is 100% up to you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show, and as it happens frequently, ask why not talk about this, why not talk about that. Okay, so one is a concern regarding the fact that North Atlantic is proceeding with their wind turbine green hydrogen model. Good for them. It is curious to know that, they talk about they have a business model that makes it still financially attractive for them to proceed, even when we talk about export markets. And look, if they can make it work, perfect. I wonder what that number looks like insofar as purchase price for green hydrogen and who their customer might be. And, in the exact same email saying, how have we all of a sudden dropped the conversation regarding onshore wind proposals here? We haven't, and we're happy to talk about it. The most recent one, though, I think has sort of gone right over the head of many people, because I think maybe the initial read of the story and the skepticism that comes with it, people think that John Risley's most current proposal is so lofty that it's never going to come to pass, and people have just shrugged it off. Okay. And just for folks who haven't maybe followed along with that, John Risley, of course, who's the proponent behind World Energy GH2, they changed their tune from green production for export to all of a sudden then it was AI data centers, and now it's apparently about an Atlantic Canadian grid, clean grid. It's huge numbers that we're talking about here. So they're talking about $75 billion, which includes $16 billion worth of transmission, both overhead and subsea. And they're talking about trying to produce unbelievable amount of power. They're talking about in phase one, 10 gigawatts, 5 from onshore Newfoundland wind and 5 from offshore Nova Scotia wind. And again, just simply for the context, the proposal on the Port of Port Peninsula and the 150 wind turbines would be able to produce around 1 gigawatt. The most curious part about the story, and I have no earthly idea if it's ever going to happen, but they say they're spending millions of dollars, a team of 60 people working on it. But what's not involved in that story, at this moment anyway, is the fact that he acknowledges out loud they'll need the other onshore proponents to be part of this play, referring to it as a reimagined Atlantic Loop, which didn't go anywhere because when I would call it political branding exercise and federal government members would be cross with me, turns out that's exactly what it was. No more. So for the other proponents, it would be nice to hear from them if that's actually something they are willing to pursue themselves. Because just like John Risley and just like World Energy GH2, the market's simply not there at this moment in time, price being the number one problem for them. I mean, not even any of the offloading infrastructure is even being worked on in Europe. Well, insofar as Germany, Port of Rotterdam, Port of Amsterdam. So now this is their new play. Also, haven't heard a single word from the provincial government, because the primary question I would have for the province is when we were told that the Crown leases were project specific. So that would have been a vastly different set of circumstances regarding transmission. Because if we're generating power in the Port of Port Peninsula in this case, and then of course we off to Stephenville with the electrolysis facility at the Port of Stephenville and the ammonia facility, that bit of infrastructure, transmission speaking, from the Port of Port Peninsula to Stephenville is one thing. If we're talking about the transmission going west and trying to interconnect all the other wind proponents that would have to be part of it to come up with the 5 gigawatts of wind power, then that's a totally different thing. So does that mean, insofar as the province is concerned, that you have to go back to the drawing board regarding an environmental impact assessment? You would imagine yes, because transmission does fall into that guise. It's not just about the turbines, and people will rightfully point out that we're not talking about turbines that you see in Ramy or turbines you see on the southern shore. These are different kettle of fish. So for me, it absolutely would change the role of the province, and to go right back to the drawing board to see environmental assessments and impact assessments be conducted regarding what would be a wild transmission corridor to connect all of these different wind farms, potentially or possibly, and then to try to get that power off the island. And who the market would be, don't know. But there's a direct mention of Hydro-Quebec and the partnership they're trying to forge with Hydro-Quebec here. So I don't know if I read all the emails or conflated a couple of them, but the reference there is about Hydro-Quebec's role and what we're talking about regarding the Churchill River. Some people have sent emails saying, we talk about it too much. Some people say we need to keep a prime focus on it. At this moment in time, I don't even know where the focus lies on that particular possibility of a pathway to a definitive agreement, because it looks like negotiations are at a standstill. And again, whether or not people want to talk about the pressure that's mounting on the Churchill River deal or the expansion at the upper and or Gull, when Hydro-Quebec gets included in any of these conversations, it does indeed bring, I think, a keener focus to possibility for the MOU to become definitive agreements, however many that might be, 10, 12, whatever the case may be. Again, it's a shame to have to clarify this all the time, but I'm not suggesting that we need to rush or to fast track any contracts here. But at some point, come this October, it's either we're in or we're out. Not because I say so, because the Parti Québécois says so. They have been very publicly shooting down this MOU in their province, saying it's devastating and embarrassing to Quebec, embarrassing to Hydro-Quebec. So again, you can think it's a good idea or a bad idea. I'll leave it up to you in full. But come October, it's going to be one way or the other. There's either going to be definitive agreements or there won't be. Because they've said quite clearly, it looks like Premier Legault and his party, the coalition d'Avenir, they're going to be brutalised in this coming election. And it really looks like, and you take the polls with a grain of salt, but it's the trend has been pretty consistent over the last couple of years. It looks like the Parti Québécois is poised to form government, and they say it's going to go away. So we should indeed be talking about it, and whether or not people think the merits of and independent reviews makes all the sense in the world to me. And can you just imagine if the next steps, and I mean the Liberals will argue that they did indeed assign independent review under the structure of a 3-person politically appointed panel to conduct it. And yes, some of the horsepower that was brought in, Power Advisory, JP Morgan Chase and others who were part of that analysis, and the 4 days in the House of Assembly for questions. You would think that when and if that was a good idea and demanded by opposition parties then, it's probably a very good idea for the next rounds of understanding what the report from the committee comes back with in April and what sort of public disclosure will be then, because Premier Wakeham's been pretty clear about, his want and understanding the public disclosure of as much information as we can get our hands on, which I think is mandatory. On that front, and I asked some specific questions when he came on the show shortly after he was sworn in as the Premier, about things like, and he got off to a good start. The public release of the Michael Wilson resignation letter was a good one, but there's some other reports that maybe I'm in the slim minority, but I'd still like to get my hands on a clear understanding of what we bought for $5 million-ish from Rothschild & Co. And again, there's been so little traction on some of these big reports that were supposed to be our fiscal and financial roadmaps, whether it be Moya Green and the Premier's economic recovery team, because there was huge things being considered therein, and nothing's happened. So whether it be divesting the NLC, I should start again. Bull Arm has been attended to. New leasee out of Bull Arm. Fair enough. But the role of the NLC, and when we talk about selling it off in full or in parts, we don't even know what that means. But nothing's ever happened there. There's references to the motor vehicle. Nothing's happened there. And one of the big ones is the possibility to sell off our equity stake in oil fields, of which there are many. Now, the province did float to the market about what the potential value might be for those oil equity stakes, but nothing since. We don't know what the end result was of that market sounding. We have no idea about the value that the private sector has assigned to our oil equity stakes. So all the big work that was done and all the ballyhoo associated with it. Now, the PERT report was released in full. Moya Green was on this show. But that Rothschild report, which you have to believe, is coming down a very similar pathway with privatization and selling off a variety of things. It'd be nice to see it. We paid for it, right? Government doesn't have any of their own money. It's our money. Whether it be in the form of royalties or taxes that are collected or other fees, we paid for that report. We deserve to see it. All right, let's check in on the Twitter box. Wild Weekend on Twitter or on social media, all platforms. We're a VOCM Open Line. Follow us there. And look, I know it's always going to be the case. If anyone dare say anything but robust applause and approval for the president, people really get quite cross. And I'll ask the question again, and I think it's a fair one. When the most powerful person on the planet is Donald Trump, and this is his current state of mind and behavior and comments, is this really what people think makes us safer and more prosperous? Oh boy. Let's get a break, and when we come back, plenty of show left for you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you this morning, Teddy?
I'm okay, thank you. How about you?
I'm good. I'm calling to address a matter concerning children that have been taken out of their dad's care. The mother and the father were doing custody, but as of December, they took the boys away from their dad. I was just wondering, how would you go about, reporting things that are going on with the boys? I've called, I'll say this too, I am the aunt of my nephew owns the boys, right? And I'm speaking because his dear mom has passed away, and he lives with his dad. So I'm trying to support him as much as I can, and seeing things, what he's gone through such a difficult time, it's unreal. Like you wouldn't even believe the things that have been done to him. So how would you go about, when nobody else is listening, it seems? I called social workers and the youth and child services in St. John's, and they just take information and just say, oh, we'll look into it. There's nothing taken seriously.
So custody has been decided by the court. Is that what I'm understanding here?
No.
Okay, how is the custody working?
Well, it was working, up until December, and my nephew wanted to get behavior management, in place for the children because, they're when they're going back and forth to both homes, it's very difficult, and he wanted speech therapy, and to his knowledge, that's what they were going to do to help him. And the next day, they called and said the children were taken away from him. So, it's a mystery what's going on behind the scenes. But, the children have been, like I say, I can't go into detail, but he's gone through a very difficult time, which nobody should have to go through. And the children are saying those things themselves. Nobody is getting them to say anything, but they're telling you what is happening, And I was there to visit them one day, and they told me things that just made my, hair rise. Like I say, I'm trying to minimize it because I don't want to.
I understand. So are we talking about reports of being physically abused or?
Yes, sexually abused as well.
Oh, man. Well, number one, the police, if there's those types of allegations.
They've been involved, but they can't do nothing about it. Like we've asked the police officer and the judge to hear the children, to see what they're saying and hear, but they say they're too young. Because they're only 4 years old.
Oh, man.
But, it's things going on that I don't know if this will help somebody else. Maybe there's others out there the same way or similar. I don't know. But my nephew's dad, he went over and above, and my darling sister who's passed on, they have done everything that the best parents and the grandparents in the world, as far as I'm concerned, to help, their son and loving, very, very loving to their grandchildren. And now they won't even allow their grandfather to go visit them. The dad has time with them twice a week, and it's monitored. And this past week, he went down, and the boys came in, and they were all scratched up on their face, and he said, what happened? And he said, you know who it was, he said to his dad. And anyway, he asked the social worker, who was, they're supposed to record everything the dad says. She says, I don't know, if this was recorded. I don't know nothing about it. They don't record the children, but they record what he says. It's like everything is done to annoy him and get him upset.
And I don't know much about the situation, but it sounds terrible, especially when we're talking about any abuse.
It is terrible.
Yeah, any abuse of children.
It is very, very bad, and nothing is being done about it.
Okay, so I have a couple of ideas. If the police say they're not willing or unable to do anything, I don't understand that. But there's something called Family Justice Services, which is outside the court process, but it's administered through the Department of Justice. So what part of the province are you calling from?
Newfoundland.
Are you in the city, or are you living in
Burin Peninsula?
the Burin Peninsula? Okay. There is an office in Marystown. So
we know that.
So have you called the Marystown Family Justice?
I won't even go there.
What happened?
They don't listen. There's a supervisor there that's just against my nephew, and I can't give you an honest answer because I don't know.
Okay. How about this?
There's something behind the scenes that's going on that is very, very wrong.
It's hard for me to navigate some of these stories when I don't really know all of the details,
and I can't give a lot of details.
And I completely understand that. So if you think there's some personality conflict that is leading you to get nowhere with whoever at the Marystown office, maybe try to call one of the other offices, because they're peppered right across the province. The next closest one would be in Clarenville, I guess. So maybe see if you can't get some advice from a different office doing the exact same services as to what you might be able to do.
Yeah, well, they're after going a long ways, let me tell you, and it seems like I don't know if we really don't know. It seems like it's just put a stop to. They're just, the first thing they said is when my nephew went down one day with the boys, he was just there playing with the boys as usual. And one of the social workers said, "You're a liar," and he didn't even think she was talking to him, like he was appalled at what was. And he looked at her, and she said, "I'm talking to you." Like this was right out of the blue, right? Like it is hard to describe. The pain that he's gone through is just beyond. And the children are acting out. They cry to come with their father constantly. And, of course, they just don't hear a word that, is being said. They're doing more trauma by taking the boys away, And what has been done on the other end is, it's so sad, very, very sad.
So between the police and Child Protective Services and Family Justice Services, for nobody to be willing to at least intervene to the point where they have a clear understanding of exactly what's going on, seems to be a betrayal of the children to me.
Oh, it is. It's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, it's more abuse done to the children by doing this than anything. And I mean, if the children are saying those things, why would they make up something like this? It doesn't make sense, right? It
doesn't make sense.
And like I say, it's so much I would like for you to understand clearly more, but I'm limited to this. But maybe it will help somebody else out there. I don't know, but just to get the word across that it is not good at all.
If somebody listening has lived through similar circumstance and has any hopeful, helpful advice for you, if they bring it to me, we'll pass it along to you.
Well, I would certainly appreciate it, because my nephew, he had cancer a couple years ago, and he was on his deathbed. The doctor, almost didn't pronounce him, and that's all. And he came back. It was a miracle that he's living today, and I thank God for him, that he's so strong that he has just looked after those boys and his dad. I mean, I would just, they should be honored for what they have gone through, the hell they have gone through, really. Should never be, should never be.
Right. If someone can give us something that we think might be able to help you, I'll be more than happy to pass it along. And keep me up to date if anything positive changes, or even if anything gets worse. I'd be curious to know, and I will indeed have a look around to see if there's some other idea that we can come up with to help.
I thank you kindly for that, Patty, this morning.
I appreciate
your
time. My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
It's a pretty sad story there. And again, it is difficult for me to navigate some of those types of issues when I really don't know all the ins and the outs and what's going on, or what level of intervention has ever come to pass from either side. It's a tricky piece of business. All right, let's get a break in for the news. When we come back, we'll be speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 1. Colin, you're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Daly. How are you this morning?
I'm okay. How about you?
Doing good, thanks. Wanted to talk about the shooting last week in Minneapolis, Minnesota, by the Immigration Customs Enforcement agent, and the lady who was in her motor vehicle. Now, there seems to be a free-for-all in the media down there that and led by Trump and his cabinet secretaries, that this officer was presumptively acting in self-defense without even seeing a shred of evidence. Within literally hours of the shooting, it just gets labeled as self-defense. There's nothing to see here. And I think that's highly contrary to the public interest in the United States. I think the police investigation, the criminal investigation, should be allowed to proceed at the federal level and at the state level and municipal level, and wherever that investigation leads. If the police in either one of those jurisdictions believe there's reasonable grounds to believe that a criminal offense took place, whatever that may be, a murder charge or criminally negligent homicide or whatever, then lay the charge and let the case go to court and give that police officer his constitutional rights and due process and rules of evidence and procedure, But that's not what's happening down there right now. This is just a free-for-all, I think.
Yeah, and not to nitpick, it's not even a police officer. He's an immigration enforcement agent. So I don't even know where to start with this one. I mean, the defense of it so quickly is mind-blowing. To immediately have this person labeled a deranged, lefty, lunatic domestic terrorist without knowing anything about the woman, it seems entirely irresponsible from the vice president and even the president. Just about killed him. He's hospitalized and stuff. I really don't know where to start. Just paint a couple of pictures here. Had shots not been fired, what would have been the outcome? 1, she'd be alive, and 2, he would remain uninjured. And even the concept of she, tried to kill him with her car, is that what people actually see when they see that video? It seems remarkable to me. And then even when we talk about the training afforded to these ICE agents, and apparently this guy is like a 10-year veteran, what have you, okay. When you put out $50,000 signing bonuses, you reduce training from 5 months to 47 days. Why? Because the president is the 47th president of the country. Is bizarre. The training is clear insofar as interactions with motor vehicles in particular. And it's gone from she was violent to she's very disrespectful. If comply or die is the new mantra in the United States, is that really what people think when they think the land of the free? Just remarkable. His training is clear. Do not stand in front of the vehicle. The Supreme Court of the United States, don't take it from me, take it from the Supreme Court. You cannot create an unsafe condition and then claim self-defense. And then another point. So there was one shot fired from in front, and it went through the windshield, and by the look of where the bullet hole is in the windshield, it probably didn't hit her in the head. And so while he was completely and 100% out of danger or any risk because the front of the car had passed him, 2 more shots in through the open window, I don't know why everyone's so quick to say, oh, there's nothing to see here. There is something to see here. And the federal government can't be trusted to do the investigation at the FBI. Why is the state police force and investigative services, why are they not involved? Very little of this makes any sense to me. But for people simply say, well, she should have got out of the car. I mean, there was contradictory orders given. Get the hell out of here and then get out of the car at the exact same time. And then, the level of remorse when the ICE agent himself, John Ross, calls her an effing bitch after the shots have been fired and she's been summarily killed, there's a lot more to see here. There just is. And then you see the videos of, ICE officers saying, don't make a bad decision today. Haven't you all learned your lesson? That kind of stuff. The budget for ICE is about $170 billion. That's more than plenty of countries on the planet. So I don't even know where to go anymore with this stuff, but I just find it remarkable that there's so many people who are quick to say, well, she got what she deserved. Really? She deserved to die?
The woman got shot in the face. She died on the street within minutes. She's somebody's daughter, somebody's spouse, somebody's aunt, niece, somebody's friend, co-worker, a human being. And just this rusted judgment. And what you said in your reply there to me a minute ago, that the FBI and the federal police agencies, they cannot be trusted to do this investigation. What does that say about the state of the criminal justice system in the United States nationally? When you are correct, by the way, when the FBI and other federal police agencies down there cannot be trusted now. They've taken away the ability of the state and municipal police and their prosecutors and investigators to do either a parallel or independent investigation. And they're just saying, no, we're not going to give you the evidence. There's nothing to see here. We're going to take care of this. This is our own little mess, and we're going to clean this up. And there's nothing to see here. You guys just move along. That's not democracy. That's not a democratic justice system.
No. Here's one. I'll try to remember it. And this is from an elected member of Congress. It's just wild. There once was a gal named Renee who wouldn't get out of the way. She stopped taking her meds and went after the feds, which effectively ended her day. That's how it's been boiled down in some corners. Remarkable.
Yeah, limericks.
She's dead.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. I don't get it. And J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, he is a member of the bar. He's a lawyer. He's taken an oath to uphold the United States Constitution, among other things, as an officer of the court. And he's well aware that due process has to be followed in criminal investigations like this, and the system has to play itself out. And if there's criminal charges laid or not, that's up for the police to decide. But for him to come right out of the gate and start attacking this woman and maligning the criminal justice system there, I think, in my opinion, that's contrary to his oath as a member of the bar.
He knows better. He does.
Yes, he does.
Well, of course he does.
Yes, he does. Trump doesn't, because Trump is an idiot, but he does.
So whether or not there's ever any charges laid, but just imagine, as opposed to investigate what went on, try to get to the bottom of it, come to a decision as to whether or not a charge is appropriate, imagine having to factor this in. What happens if we charge him and the place goes absolutely haywire because of a charge being laid? You know that's got to be part of the calculation when it doesn't belong as part of the calculation. The calculation should be what happened, what did we see, what can we prove, does it justify a charge or not, as opposed to what happens if they riot in the streets because we bring forward a charge. And that's where they are in the United States. And we're very quickly getting there in this country as well. Hopefully Canadians can take a step back and just try to take a deep breath and get back to some level of normalcy when we have these difficult conversations, because difficult conversations are going to rule the day. They won't be the exception, they will be the rule, because it's a tricky world, requires serious people with a bit of level-headedness, especially at the elected leadership positions. And I saw the president yesterday declare himself as the acting president of Venezuela. Well, we were told Kamala Harris was too emotional, too unserious to be a president. And anyway, Colin, I really don't know what to say about it anymore. I was vowed to myself, knowing that social media would be a dark place over the weekend, to give myself a break. Lo and behold, as I was waiting for something, I decided to open my phone, and I thought, boy, oh boy, what a sad state of affairs. Yeah,
it's pretty sad that the overarching principles in the criminal justice system in the United States and in this country too. There are differences because we have two different constitutions and political systems. But in any criminal prosecution, the police and prosecutors have two main goals. One is to act in the public interest, and number two is if they bring on a prosecution, is to act in the public interest. And the second one is do they have a reasonable prospect of getting a conviction? It doesn't mean that the person who's going to be accused of a crime is going to be convicted. It's just based on all the potential evidence that's available to the police and to the prosecutors. Is it reasonable in public interest to proceed with a prosecution? And if it is, then you let that go. But this is not what's happening down there, right?
And then he just got in his car and drove away. I don't even know if anybody knows where he is right now.
No.
Anyway,
and it's a very good point that even after the shooting, this woman was clearly killed within minutes, and he just they got in the vehicle and took off without rendering assistance to her. He's under a legal obligation to render assistance to her and the other agents. She was seriously wounded, as it turned out, fatally. There is an argument in criminal law about post-offense conduct. What was your conduct after the shooting? He called her an FB after the shooting. You could hear it on the audio. So was he acting in fear, in reasonable apprehension of fear of grievous bodily harm, that he was going to be killed or injured? That's an open question. I'm not going to say he was or he wasn't, but was he given his rights? Was he read his rights? Was he subject of investigative detention? If he was he read his constitutional rights like anybody else would be down there? If not, why not?
Last one for me, because I do have to get going, is you wonder why the ICE activity is so extraordinary in Minnesota. Oh, it might be because of Tim Walz. How about, Texas, Florida? The number of undocumented immigrants or illegal immigrants in those two big states. Why don't we see the similar kind of conduct and presence of federal law enforcement, in this case, immigration customs enforcement? I probably have an idea there too. Colin, I got to get going, but I appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to seeing what my email brings now during this break.
Very good. Cheers.
Thanks. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, we've told the story about the 85% increase in road construction costs. See if we can't get down to a little bit more of a better understanding as to the contributing factors there when we talk to the Transportation Infrastructure Minister, Barry Pettin, right after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Barry Pettin is the PEC member for Conception Bay South and Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure. Joins us on line number 2. Minister Pettin, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
Best kind. How about you?
I'm good, thanks.
Let's dig into this explosion in road construction costs. 85% increase between 2019 and 2025. Do we have any better understanding as to what the contributing factors are there? Because we know the price of labour has gone up, the price of certain inputs has gone up, but 85%, hard time understanding it.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, those numbers were quite startling to all of us when we seen them, of course, and that all started through the transition and into when I got sworn into the department. I've met with Debbie Civil Association. I got another meeting actually coming up soon with them as well. And I mean, they expressed there's pressures on their materials and wages and fuel costs. They got mobilization, demobilization issues with quarries. But I guess, and that's fine. I mean, the cost of things go up. We live it every day. All you got to do is go to a store. No one's questioning that. I guess the question and what alarms me, and I mean, our role as government, any government, I mean, ultimately you got to try to manage your budgets and manage, public versus public money. And when you see that the CPI, I mean, it's gone up 20%, and their costs have gone up 85%. All the while, we've increased the budget in 2023. Former Premier Fury increased the budget significantly, up 92%, and we're only seeing basically a 7% improvement in the amount of roads getting done if you look at it from that cost effectiveness. So we're not seeing no increase, really, pretty well flat. But you're after increasing your budget by this significant amount of money. That causes me concern. It should cause and it causes everyone concern because ultimately we want to get the best bang for the buck. That was first announced was a significant amount of money, increase in budgets, and I wondered at the time were we going to be able to get the work done. I mean, that's always a challenge too. But now it seems but we're not seeing no extra road work being done. I mean, costs have gone from I think it's say 300,000 kilometers to over 600,000. So. No, I mean, if there's justified reasons, I mean, I'm not the business. That's their business model. I respect them wholeheartedly and get a good relationship. But, I mean, I got to try to find a way how we can work with them to get better pricing. I mean, is it doing bigger tenders? Something I'm considering. I've had lots of conversations about it. We're going to have some more when I meet with them later this month. We got to find a way that can help them keep their costs down, and internally we get more work. Ultimately we want to get more paving projects done, more work done. But something got the balance there of 85 to 92% range. I mean, when you're looking at that, it's a figure that troubles me, and I think we got to try to figure out a way around this.
Sure. I'm a little confused with some of the comments coming from the Heavy Civil Association associated with the Stats Canada number referring to the Consumer Price Index. They say we all know how it's used, but they're talking about that being an actual problem. But for me, it's about the cost as opposed to the index being used. So your reaction to their concerns about CPI?
CPI, Paddy, has been a number that's been used, and certainly this morning, actually, I had the conversation we were just talking about. I mean, CPI is the number we all base our costs on and whatever. And CPI seems to be the standard, or 20% seems to be a standard across the board in a lot of other areas. So I'm at a loss of why it's not applied and why it's not adequate or not why it doesn't match up with with Heavy Civil. So I think I need more explanation from them to explain why they feel that way, because I've not gotten that, and I'm still getting, there's materials and there's wage and there's fuel, and no doubt all those things increase. We all know that, but If they increase more than 20%, that hasn't been justified, proven to me. And I'm open to suggestions to tell me why. But I mean, we all know. I mean, I don't know. I'm at a loss as well, to be quite frank with you. And I guess I'll find out more when I meet with them later this month. But yeah, I mean, and they may very well give me a justified reason. It's not about us against them. I got to try to work with them because they're the ones out doing our road work. We depend on them to get our roads done. And I want to maintain a good relationship, but I also got to try to maintain a relationship in the backdrop of a budgetary pressures. And I mean, that's ultimately your responsibility. You got to try to do both in my role and our role as government. So we got to try to find a way to work with them and in a respectful manner. And that's my goal. That's the way I operate, actually.
So even when we were talking about the decision that your government has made to walk away from the P3 for the expansion of the divided highway and the amount of money associated with it, have you had a look at whether or not that $300 million is actually going to cover the proposal? Because $300 million proposed 2 years ago is not $300 million worth of road work today.
No, and that's something we've talked about internally, Paddy. And no matter what, even with the P3 model, that would have been a challenge. But the goal is, and I've talked to people in the industry, talked to people in the department, people in the know will say, the bigger the amount of work, the bigger the project, the more they can set up shop and do the work in that area, you get better pricing. I mean, that's why I'm thinking about with the road program, the annual roads work this year, instead of having them going here and going there and going everywhere, I'm trying to do, I suggest we do bigger packages. Go to one area and do a lot of work. Do it that way, move around next year. So the people that normally hoping to get a small area road work done this year may have to wait till the following year, and we'll go when they're encompassed by a bigger swath of work. And the same thing applies to the P3, because we felt there's more control to do it the way we decided to pull in the P3, do a traditional approach, but do it in bigger sections. And that should, according to what I'm being told, that should get us better pricing and it's a quicker process. That way we can get started at this work this coming season. I mean, those are various reasons. And another reason too, Paddy, with the P3 model, no one really talks about that the government of today, previous administration already agreed to leave snow clearing on the table, that the province would look after it. So ultimately, I mean, P3 model really was watered down to it really didn't make much sense, because really 10 or 15 years before you have to do any real maintenance with roads, snow clearing is a big cost on a road from day one. So there's lots of reasons why we decided to go the route we did, but doing bigger chunks, and I think we should. Our hope is now, and we'll figure that out when time comes, our hope is, because we're going to do it in sections, and we'll see when we do the first tender how our pricing comes in. But we have to monitor it. We have to try to get, we have to address it as it comes along. But I think we need better pricing. But everyone they got to make a living too. We understand that. But again, we got to work together, and we got to get more road work done. I mean, right now we're. For the amount of money being spent, we're not making much progress that we should be making. I think anyway.
When this proposal came forward about the expanding the divided highway, it's a pretty lucrative contract, and coming up with a response to a tender or an RFP is time-consuming and expensive for the companies. Have any of these companies come to the government looking for some cost recovery, because the money they spent in preparing to bid on these contracts in the form of a P3 is money that's now been spent and gone and of no value? So have they come looking for money?
The officials have been back and forth with them on that. I know all that money. I mean, there was that's always built into a P3. So trying to find out what that amount is, there will be some money paid back to them for the work they've done. But people got to realize a lot of that work they've done is property of the province now, like geotechnical engineering work. They done. We have that's in our possession now to use towards doing tendering, as in the traditional method. So we're benefiting by that work, but no, the actual figures they are working on that, but that hasn't been arrived at yet. But there is conversation with some of them, and some of those they can still bid on the traditional approach too. So Paddy, if they actually bid on the traditional approach, some of this work that they already done, they can use it and go forward with the tender if they're so successful, if they're a successful bidder. So that will be that'll be less government to have to reimburse them as well. So those numbers on that, I don't think they're going to be astronomical by any stretch, and we're benefiting by the work that's done. But I think we'll know more when the tenders are issued and what have you, and it'll be probably later before we can fully analyze it. But we're not anticipating anything humongous that we didn't already anticipate getting into it.
The very last one, I think. So when we had the examinations of chemical compound of the asphalt and what would last longer, and we had an experiment, a pilot project regarding night paving. One thing that has been on the table and discussed in other provinces is not only the chemical compound, but using different tire-derived aggregate as part of the composition of our asphalt. Is there an examination planned or ongoing on that front? Because it seems to me, when I look at some of these studies and reports, it looks like savings and maybe more robust and resilient asphalt.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting you raised that today. I don't know. Maybe some people have reached out to me in the last week on that question, and I've actually asked officials for some information. So I guess I could advise you at a later date, but that issue's come up, and it was, so it's one that I'm looking into. So yeah, I'm anything that can help, better paving, better pricing, that we all benefit by better roads. Ultimately, I mean, why would you not explore it, and why would you not be open to it? So I'm open to any suggestion like that, but that is one actually was brought to my attention, and I have asked officials for some information on it, and so I'd be glad to advise you at a later time when I get that information, Paddy. By all means, I would have no problem letting you know.
Okay, last one. The hiring process for snowplow operators, truck drivers, what have you, for the expansion of 24/7. Some of the operators have actually come to me, whether it be associated with the rate of pay, but also the process and the vetting, as opposed to applications being dropped off at a depot, a supervisor looking at it, and you've got your license in place and a driver's abstract and some referrals and whatnot. Then they recommend to you or your senior officials, okay, here's our list. These people are ready to come to work, as opposed to all the hands it goes through at the bureaucracy and the time that it takes to get to a final decision of vetting. Because wouldn't it be simply, do you have a license? Let's see your driver's abstract. You get some referrals. We know that you're a reliable, reasonable, and trusted operator.
Yeah, well, there's a bit more to it than that, I guess. One big piece, they got to do a road test. There's certain things, we've had them that they ran past the road test and done everything fine, but then when they done the driver abstract, they realized they weren't qualified to drive some of the equipment, whether that be driving standard to to an automatic. You come back and you do an abstract, and this person has probably had an impaired charge or various other driving violations. So there's a lot more to it. And these are big piece of equipment, as you know, Paddy. So there's a lot more to it. I've asked that question, too, to be honest with you, because I'm one of the people I like to get it done yesterday. So what's taking so long? But when I do ask and I get explanations, and these concerns will become, I read an email this morning, similar question what you're saying there now. But the answer I'm getting back is a valid answer, because there's a lot more to it than just, it's not so straightforward as that when you dig into it. So, I leave it to the powers that be in the Public Service Commission that they get a better handle on the recruitment and HR stuff than I do. But I understand, I guess what I'm trying to say, I understand people feeling that way. I do, because again, I'm similar approach to myself. But when the answers come back and there's a lot more, it's justified reasons for that approach, I'm less inclined to be critical and understand it. So there's much more to it than. But I'd like to fast the process. I think anything we do government to make it faster is better, but it's not always achievable.
Appreciate the time, Minister. Thank you.
Okay, Paddy. Thank you. Take care.
All the best. Bye-bye. It's Barry Petton, Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Here we go. Line number 8. Say good morning to the PC member for Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckens, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. That's Chris Tibbs. Here we go. Good morning, Minister Tibbs. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. You never forget the Buckens, and I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
I try to remember to include it, of course. I'm going to start off with a couple of quick ones. So there was a conversation in Port-au-Port for quite a long time about mainland and Three Rock Cove becoming an incorporated municipality. There's been some back and forth, but we've had a couple of calls from the area and a bunch of emails about why it's been denied at this moment in time. Can you give us some specific reasons as to why they will not be proceeding?
Absolutely, Paddy. First and foremost, it has not been denied. It has not been rejected. It's actually full steam ahead. So I can give you a quick timeline. This has been on with government now since 2022, from what I can see. And first of all, Paddy, it's fantastic to be in the department I'm in. We have some great people working here, and we're going to see it exactly from this portfolio right here. The Premier gave me some direction in early November that he wanted this done because it meant a lot to himself, the department, and the people, most of all, out in mainland and Three Rock Cove. So to give you a quick timeline, on December 10th, I had a fantastic meeting, myself and my team, with the folks out there, and they were delighted with the meeting we had. They sent in a response letter on December 20th to the department, and the letter said, "It is evident from our discussion that your department is taking the required action to proceed to the next step, and for this we are grateful." Make no mistake, Patty, this is full steam ahead just after 2 months of having it. And from here, I guess, it's going to go to Lieutenant Governor and Council, and we will see this file seen through.
So, if I'm hearing correctly, the required information from mainland and Three Rock Cove is in hand. There's no additional back and forth. We need this, we need that. Or so we're just talking about the formalizing the process or finalizing the process?
That's it, sir. No more additional information. We've received all the information we needed. We needed to let that community know exactly, what was to come up, what was expected as a town, what they can expect if they incorporate as a town. They're quite happy with it. We're quite happy with it, and we're full steam ahead.
Okay, so that's the good news, and I think that probably clears up some of the confusion we've heard from folks in the area.
That was the biggest thing. Yeah, that was the biggest thing, Patty. My apologies. Was some of the confusion that was out there. Like I say, we've had it only for 2 months now, and this, like I say, we will see this through. We want to make sure that they're not just set up as a town, but they're set up as a successful town, and that is part of this department's mandate, is to ensure that whatever we take on, whatever we see through, gets done, but it gets done in a successful way long term.
Regionalisation became a very bad and unwelcome word in many communities across the province, but we know into the future, if we're being blatantly honest with ourselves, there's going to be the need for further collaboration or cooperation, so we can shelve calling it regionalisation because it's not welcome in many corners. But what's your role as Minister, what's your department's role in ensuring that there's some of these long-term visions so that we know what the cooperation is going to be like, whether identifying redundancies and maximising the amount of money people pay in taxes and fees, because we see the demographic numbers, we see the dwindling populations, we understand what's coming, but there's been very little political will to address it up front.
But you're absolutely right, Patty, and I get where you're coming from, and it seems to be the boogeyman out there, but it doesn't need to be. Listen, we've known for quite some time, Newfoundland Labrador, it's very distinct in its communities, in its culture, and its geography. So we're going to work with every single community throughout this province to ensure that the best plan is put in place for them. How that looks, like I say, we're going to work with the department to ensure that the success rate is at the maximum capacity possible, but we want these communities to be successful, and if that means entertaining some shared services and stuff moving forward, that's exactly what we're going to do. But we want to make sure that the communities have their say, because this does not work without the communities, without the councils, and without their cooperation. But make no mistake, before my 4 years is done, I would like to see something done on this moving forward, or some sort of a template moving forward that can be used by communities throughout this province, where they can start to save money, where they can possibly share some services. It's out there, Patty. I think we just need to dig into these communities, sit down with them one-on-one, listen to their needs, listen to their wants, and then come up with formulate a plan, which my department is currently doing. Yeah,
the conversation then was, communities felt like, I don't want to be told what to do. And we got off on the wrong foot when the local service districts weren't involved in the working groups. And then people have this worry about, their familial attachment with one community that would be eroded or go by the wayside. But there's other examples out there, like New West Valley, for instance, comes to mind, where I think there's a pragmatic approach, which might even be better for residents of the area. So I'd like to hear those conversations into the future. Let's move on to Victoria. You took what is a fairly rare example of disbanding and dismissing an entire council from the mayor all the way down. So a couple of questions. The person who's the minister administrating all the operations in Victoria is a senior member of your department. Are you footing the bill for all his travel and what have you? Or pardon me, is the province footing the bill as opposed to the residents of Victoria?
Yes, we are, Patty, but it's going to come back tenfold, I can promise you, because the gentleman we have out there he's extremely seasoned. He knows what he's doing. And at the end of the day, Patty, the most important part is he wants the best for Victoria as well, like we all do. I had a great talk with the mayor. I just spoke to one of the councillors this past week, and we're hoping in the spring to have an election, a special election, to get a council formulated back there again. But we want to make sure that that town is brought up to speed. Everything, the books are brought up, everything is brought up to speed, and what they can do into the future to make sure their success rate as well. We don't want to find ourselves back here again next year. And like you say, Patty, it's a very rare case, but we feel as though it was warranted. It wasn't an easy decision for me, Patty, and I just want to talk on a personal note for a moment. I know that all those councillors and the mayor, they were very proud of themselves, and they should be very proud of themselves for getting elected, and they can run again. But at the time, I'm sure that they wanted the same thing, and that was the best for the 2,200 residents in Victoria. And at the end of the day, that's exactly what we're striving for. And the gentleman we have out there who is the administrator, that's what he's doing. He's working with the town manager. He's working with residents of the town and stuff to ensure that the success of Victoria, we can see it in the future as well.
Can you help us understand why we have to wait so long into the spring for an election? Because if the concern was in council itself and accusations of harassment and bullying and code of conduct or conflict of interest reports weren't in hand, what have you, if that's been addressed directly by you and the person who's the administrator out there now, can you help us understand as to the lag between now and sometime into the spring for an election?
Sure, Patty. We have a budget that needs to be submitted out there yet, and it takes some time. We need to put some bylaws in place, code of conduct, and the town manager, the administrator we have out there now, he's tackling all this with the help of the town staff out there. So there are issues to be tackled. They are going to take some time, but again, we're going to make sure we do this right, not quickly.
Last one before I let you go. You're also responsible for the MMSB, the Multi-Materials Stewardship Board. There's been some changes here. Like, it used to infuriate me that we were paying other provinces millions of dollars to take our tyres away. And now we have a tyre recycling facility. So some of those costs have now gone by the wayside, not in full, but in part. So are we going to change the environmental fee that we've been charging? Because things have changed.
That's something that I will be in discussions with my department about, Patty. Like I say, we have I have both departments with Municipal Affairs and ECC. That's something that I'm going to be discussing with my department, and we're going to take this province into the future as best we can and as fiscally responsibly as we possibly can. And listen, I know that everyday life can be very, very troublesome, when it comes to finances, and a lot of people out there, they are suffering, they are hurting. Whatever we can do on the financial side to responsibly take Newfoundland and Labrador into the next 4 years to come to ensure that we're environmentally responsibly, but we're not going to break the pocketbook either, Patty. I'm going to talk to my department about exactly what you just said, and we're going to come up with a plan.
Last one. So you're also responsible for the environment, conservation and climate change. With the new proposal floated by John Risley regarding what is an enormous amount of power to be generated in a so-called Atlantic Clean Grid, do we need to review the lease of Crown land? Because they were very project specific. This is different. Transmission from Port to Port to Stephenville is vastly different than trying to connect all these different wind proponents to get the power west and off the island, subsea cables or otherwise. So your initial thoughts about the proposal, and does that not mean that we need to go back to the Environmental Impact Assessment Drawing Board?
We may have to, Patty, and that's something that we're discussing right now and discussing with Crown Lands and this current administration. But like I say, when such big projects like that change, absolutely, the government needs to make sure that we change with it. And whether it be ECC or whether it be the town of Victoria or Three Rock Cove and mainland, Patty, make no mistake, this current administration, we are all about listening. And we were given those directives from the Premier when we were in opposition. We're given those directives from the Premier the first day that we were elected. We are to sit down, we are to listen, and we are to propel this province the best way forward as we possibly can.
Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patty. Enjoy your day.
You too. Bye-bye. It's Chris Tibbs, PC member of Grand Falls Windsor Buckins and Minister of a variety of portfolios, as you just heard me mention, on different fronts. All right, let's see here. Today's a good day to get on the show. If you're in and around town, 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. We're taking a break, and then we're coming back. Welcome back to the show. Let us go. Line number 1, good morning to Connie Pike with Miles for Smiles. Hi, Connie. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Patty. Happy New Year to you.
The same to you.
Yeah, it's the first time we spoke in the new year, and I was hoping for a better one, but this one's not off to a good start.
Before we get to the numbers, Connie, I think Dave mentioned to you that we had a caller earlier that, concerning some potential abuse of her grandchildren or nephews or nieces. I'm kind of losing the relationship here, but she was, at a loss. Law enforcement unwilling or unable to help. Social workers at Child Protective Services not doing anything. Family Justice Services not willing to do anything about it. Have any advice for her in case she's still listening?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, Dave did mention it, and I didn't hear the call, but I will go back and listen. And I mentioned to Dave that what I'd like to do is send you guys a list of resources. At least you'd have some options to offer people or send them back in by way of an email or something. It's my understanding that, and it used to be, that people could call the Department of Social Services. I'll still call it that. The name changes happen so frequently, I can't keep up. People would call there first. That would be their initial call, and you can call anonymously, but it sounds like this lady has already done that. So there are some other options available to her. In each area of the province, there's a violence prevention committee, and I know that you recall me working as director of the Coalition Against Violence. Well, they changed the names of the 10 committees. There are 9 now. The one in Corner Brook was shut down, but the 9 committees are violence prevention, and then they tag the area after that. So there would be one available to her in the Buren-Marystown area. So she could call violence prevention there, and I'll get those numbers for you, actually. And then also there's a domestic violence hotline. So she could call that, because we know, and you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, that domestic violence and child abuse are all wrapped up. It's hard to have one without the other if there are children involved. So I would suggest to her that she start with the violence prevention number and kind of go from there.
Okay, thank you.
And I will get you some more information, some more resources that she could possibly avail of.
Yeah, it's a real shame that the first 3 she tried to get some assistance from were unwilling to or unable to help. I mean, Child Protective Services, Family Justice Services, and law enforcement, if we're talking about the abuse of children, you think someone would have lifted a finger to help?
Yeah, I'm kind of gobsmacked that, the department wouldn't help her out. And if this woman has knowledge, I mean, you can call there anonymously, for heaven's sakes, and report something. Like, why wouldn't they take credible information from a relative? I don't get that. I just don't get it. And people can't be dismissed like that, Patty. Somebody has to stop and say, well, if I can't help, what can I offer this woman? What information can I offer to her? And what, resources are there that might be able to help her? Like, I just don't get this. There's nothing we can do. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, and this next comment is not about that lady and or her life circumstances. We do know that people are willing to fabricate stories to, get involved in family issues, whether it be regarding custody or otherwise. But at least we have to figure out whether or not what's being told is accurate, and if it is, to proceed. If it can be shown that, someone's falsely planting stories to disrupt whatever the case may be inside the family unit or custody arrangements, then that's a different thing. But at least have a look, because if it's true,
yes,
these children need to be helped.
Exactly. It sounds like they could be at risk. And, I mean, who wants that? We've seen it in this province. People didn't listen about the Bagby incident either years ago. It just is so frustrating when people don't go that extra mile. And we have to be able to say, okay, what can I do? It's not what I can't do. It's what can I do to help this person? And I know fabrications happen. I'm well aware. I've, been the recipient of stories, but they can be disproven in very short order. And I'm talking hours. Like, you can say, okay, this is not accurate. And so even if you think it's a fabrication, you still need to investigate, in my mind.
No question. Connie, before we get into the court talk and some of the numbers, which are always quite sobering, can I put you on hold for the news?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that. All right, put Connie on hold. We'll come back and finish that conversation. Then tons of time left for you as well. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go back to line number one. So good morning again to Connie Pike with Miles for Smiles. Connie, you're back on the air.
Oh, hi, Patty. In that little break there, just thinking about this call situation with this lady, and it's really frustrating to start off the new year like this with someone not giving answers to that person who called. Anyway, I'll just leave that for a moment. It takes me back, though, to a call that you had December 17th from Janet McNaughton, actually, and talking about domestic violence. And here we are again, people need to pay attention, and Janet's call about the high-risk cases and so on. I firmly believe that if we had better risk assessment tools in place back in 2013, that Julianne Hibbs and many other women in this province would still be alive. And so, I just wonder when we're going to start taking this seriously. And Janet had mentioned about an article in the New Yorker entitled A Raised Hand. And I remember reading it a long time ago, so I went back and reread it. And it's hopeful because so many new strategies, preventative strategies, have been added since 2013. A lot of it still sounds familiar. A lot of cases, things still going on. This particular woman who's described at the beginning of that article was killed just over a year before the article was written. And she had gone to shelters. She had called the police. Her husband was charged. He was charged with assault and violating a protection order, another red flag, like Janet mentioned. And the police went to her door when one of her daughters called on a particular day. And just when they kicked the door in, he shot his partner with a shotgun and then turned it on himself, just as the police went through the door. And the police officer described this horrendous scene unfolding right in front of him, not a thing he could do. And he went on to say he hadn't slept in years. So these cases affect so many people. Those two children of that couple then were left with no parents. Well, at least the one who was looking after them. So it gets really frustrating. The one piece of information that I'll reiterate again, you and I have talked about this before, is the question that I was asked most over a 31-year period is, why doesn't she leave? And of course, that thinking, that approach, that question is highly judgmental, and it focuses on the victim's behavior. You're holding that person responsible, as opposed to flipping the script, which is what we really need to do, and focus on the perpetrator's behavior. Why was this person beating his partner? That alone, just flipping the conversation, changing the narrative, would change things, because we have to start putting the responsibility and the blame where it squarely belongs. And the other frustrating piece of that is, in our own country, she talked about the strategies they're using in PEI, and they haven't had a homicide since 2015. Well, Patty, why can't other provinces use best practices? Why can't we learn lessons from each other? Why can't we employ these preventative strategies and have people wearing ankle monitors, particularly in high-risk situations? What we're doing, Patty, is not good enough. Nova Scotia and I believe Saskatchewan has now deemed domestic violence, which includes child abuse, again, I'll say that, have deemed them to be epidemics. We need to get serious. We need to start taking these matters more urgently. There's a woman killed in Canada every other day, Patty. And I have mentioned to you that with over 1 billion children abused each year on the global stage, that is just about 32 incidents every second. 32 cases of child abuse somewhere in the world every second, Patty. Like, when will we get the message? And we're just not striving hard enough to address the issues. We've just been satisfied with the status quo. And the numbers and those cases cited in that article, A Raised Hand, they're still happening. That's the frustrating part. Like, this was written in 2013. Here we are 13 years later, and none of this sounded unusual to me as I was reading it again. And that's the shame of it. So I'll leave that. I'll send you some resources for that lady who was looking for some help. The numbers for December, again, they're up high, and again, people need to take note because there are very, very few cases that actually go to court. But for December, we had 368 cases involving some kind of crime against a child on all 10 court dockets in the province. 50 people were charged with those 368 offenses, Patty. And again, reminder to people, only about 2% of cases go to court. So you do the math. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the shooting in the States. I want to reiterate to people there because I have a lot of family and friends there. The only approach to this is a peaceful approach, peaceful protest, because I will warn people that if they're not doing it peacefully, that will be used as justification to escalate enforcement in the States. And I, for one, I'm very concerned about what's happening down there. I'm convinced that that administration, that regime, they want to employ the Insurrection Act so then elections can be called off. So we need to be aware of what's happening in our world, what's happening around us, what's happening with our neighbors. A lot of people are in crisis there, and a lot of people are suffering and afraid. And why are we even having this conversation in 2026 about people living in fear like that? It's just atrocious. Go ahead.
No, I don't even know what to say about it anymore. Look, for people to be in favor of deporting illegal immigrants, I get that. Absolutely. I completely understand that. When you examine the most recent history about the number of deportations that took place each year, it's just, it's not just about the numbers, it's how it's been conducted. I mean, that's the issue here, isn't it? And, you look back at a picture of an ICE agent 10 years ago, they're wearing like that FBI, but in this case, a nice rain jacket. But now they look like they're equipped to take over Fallujah. And, even regular police officers, they're obliged by their own laws in their states to have their badge numbers easily accessible. Their name is on their uniform. And these guys, the argument is, well, they can't show their faces because they'll be doxxed. What? I mean, you don't think we're having people emboldened with very little training, and they're armed so heavily and so financially supported, and they're covering their face, and we don't think that all of a sudden they have this air of power hungry? Of course they do. It's clear to see. Immigration issues have to be dealt with. I get it. Same thing in this country. But there's a way to go about it that does not stoke fear and chaos, confusion in community. And that's what's happening here. No matter what you think of immigration and illegal immigrants, then I don't know why anybody thinks that this is a good thing. The way it's being conducted, it's amazing to me. But apparently I'm a libtard, so says my email. But no, I'm just trying to be reasonable and rational here. This does not look right to me, and I hope it never comes to my country.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? with his talk of taking us over as the 51st state. We've seen what he's been doing in Venezuela. We see the talk about Colombia and Cuba and Greenland. And listen, the 51st state chatter is not far behind all of that if he proceeds with this. And I will say, Patty, I agree that if they want criminals out of their country, I think everybody would be in favor of that.
Sure.
But that's not what they're doing, and how they're doing it is atrocious. A lot of these people who are employed by ICE, who, by the way, get a $50,000 signing bonus, you know, you're going to get people who are in this for the money and the power. And a lot of these people are ex-military. A lot of them are ex-military. And their training teaches them to shoot first, ask questions later. So, you know, they're getting a faster stream of training, and it's just not good enough. It's not good enough for that country to accept. So I hope to see some changes this year, but I'm very fearful because I think this year will be worse than last year. It's going to ramp up before November, and we're in for a lot of shockers on this front.
Kind of feels like it. Connie, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah. Patty, can I mention one more thing? There's a new book, The Amazing Generation. You and I talked about Jonathan Haidt before, and his new book is designed for 9 to 12-year-olds. And there's a graphic novel in there, and it talks about the downside of devices, but not in a lecturing kind of way. It provides empowerment to children, that they can have agency, and they can do it in a way that they don't feel left out. So the goal is to empower these children and normalize not having a device. And I think it's timely, even though I wonder about the source. But Rogers came out with a new program. I just heard about it on the National the other night. Rogers Telecommunications. They have what's called a Rogers Screen Break. They're going to invest $50 million over the next 5 years. Some people, of course, are wondering about their motivation, but still, overall, I think it's a good thing. They're going to offer grants for organizations that encourage youth to get active. They're going to be commissioning studies on youth screen time each year, and there's going to be a national in-school program that features professional athletes. So I'm hoping people like Brad Guzzu, for instance, will get involved in this province and carry the message forward that, because the one thing with teenagers, and I think that's what they're doing in trying to capture this audience of 9 to 12-year-olds, is get ahead of the teenage years, because when you reach that stage, you don't want to be left out. That's a critical piece for teenagers. So I think they're trying to reach a younger set before that, and it's recommended that parents read the book and decide if it's appropriate for their children. But it's like the anxious generation, only it's considered light.
I appreciate the time, Connie. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. When we get back, there's a caller there who's got a problem with a specific dog in a specific community, and then we'll speak with you. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 2. Levi, you're on the air.
Listen, Pat, I got a few things written down there, and I hope this one help me guide through what I'm going to say.
Okay.
We are having a problem with this roaming dog. It's a big dog. When the kids go out to play or go to school, quite often they have to come back inside because they're afraid of this dog. I've spoken to the police, the SPCA, the person looking after this dog, the LSD, that's a committee is in the community. Mm-hmm. We are at our wits' end. But let me say this, I will not stand by and my family put at risk by this dog. And I'll go on and say a little more.
Has this dog actually hurt anybody in the past?
Anybody?
Yeah. Has the dog hurt anybody?
No, I'm not sure about that, but the dog, when it comes around the doors, is growling, and you try to drive it out of it, and for some reason, it gets quite tempered. Like.
Okay.
And what I'm going to say, I know the sadness when talking about the loss of lives. Money and flowers, like I have seen in this other problems, will not solve the problem. Because the sadness in people's hearts is like I'm saying, money and flowers sure do nothing to solve it. And I spoke to the police, and I think they're trying to make some contact with them. And something needs to be done about this dog before something really serious happens.
I understand. And, you know, it's remarkable to me that so many dog owners, especially of large breed dogs, are willing to just let their dogs roam free. I mean, we've heard from people after there was a story that a young person, a kid, was killed by 3 big dogs in Nova Scotia last weekend, or a couple of weekends ago. Yeah, but yet people are still willing to let their big dogs roam free. I understand, you know, wanting your dog to be able to get out and run around, but there's a lot of people out there that are genuinely fearful of especially big dogs.
Yeah, and let me say this, Paddy. I'm not the only one concerned about this dog, because I spoke to this person. I won't say no names or nothing like that, because quite often when you speak out about certain things, there's repercussions. That's the word I'll use. You beat up something you got, or beat the windshield of your car, or something like that. This is why a lot of people is not speaking out on serious issues. So I'm sure you're quite aware of what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make.
I do. I understand.
And like I'm saying, I'm not a violent person or nothing like that, but I tell you, I had a real tragedy in my life where I lost my innocent child in the house for, and I know the sadness of lost lives. And people think a flower or a bit of money is going to solve the sadness that's in someone's heart. I'm telling you, they're thinking really wrong. And I'm hoping that I'm speaking like where I can be heard, and I'm hoping I'm speaking fairly.
I think you are. Levi, have you happened to speak to the person who owns this dog?
Yeah, and the person that I spoke to kind of more or less got upset with me. I said, I'm not here to listen to you backtalking me. I'm telling you, the seriousness can come from this dog. I know that I'm not the only person speaking about this dog, but 9 chances out of 10 or 8, probably I'm the only one that can be heard, like lots of cases.
Yeah, because your point that, you know, before it's too late, because if there's good reason to be fearful of one particular dog, it doesn't take much for a dog that maybe has a bad temperament in the first place to actually lash out, and then who knows what the end result will be.
And as far as I'm concerned, some of those people got dogs, they can't look after themselves, let alone big old huge dogs. I don't mean to be slurry towards anybody, but it's time for somebody to realise the seriousness that's going on in this community. I'm not allowed to say the community, I wouldn't say.
Well, you can as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's Bunyan's Cove.
Okay.
And it's time for someone to get off their butts and do something about the sadness and the realities that's going on in our community. Now, someday I'm going to speak to you about drugs there, and but I'll have it written down, and because I'm back and forth to court, then I will listen to certain cases, and I'm sure this other gentleman will speak his mind and make his point about the seriousness. And get the trash out of the communities and help the innocent people.
Yeah, so if the person who owns that dog, or if there's a bunch of different communities since I spoke to that story in Nova Scotia that have sent me the same stories, is that there's big groups of big dogs on the loose and people are afraid. I mean, if you own a dog, you need to be a responsible dog owner.
Yeah. And we got to go back to the legislators, I suppose, whoever makes those laws and make people to understand, because seems like there's a problem with their thinking or something.
Yeah, because I really don't want the next call or the next story out of Bunyan's Cove to be a child or anybody to be seriously hurt or killed. And I'm not being hyperbolic. There was just a little kid killed in Nova Scotia riding his bike by 3 big dogs.
But it's just like the 2 boys. No, I'm not the only one, but I'm the only one probably I call you. When the kids go out there and eating the head ups there, when they go to walk their dogs or they go outside. Jesus, when he sees this dog or any dog that's showing a bad temperament, I mean, they're afraid to go out. And when you got a kid that's afraid to go outside or go to school, and the police and this committee, well, the committee probably there's not much they can do. But for Christ's sake, there must be someone got a grain of sense and realize the problems there.
I totally understand where you're coming from, Levi. Would you like to say anything else before I go to the news?
No, that's fine, Petty. I'll talk to you again sometime.
I look forward to it.
I'm making myself a little bit clear.
You did. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks, Levi.
You.
You're welcome.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, look, any dog can be potentially harmful, but big dogs obviously pose a different problem. You know, every now and then, like if I see, like there's a park behind my house, and if someone's throwing a tennis ball up and down the grass and the dog looks like it's under control, I mean, I'm not going to be leaning out over the fence, hey, get your dog on a leash. But if you know there's a dog that the community is afraid of and is maybe a big dog as described by Levi, the owner of the dog, come on, you know, let him out in the yard. Inside the fence. Let's get a break in. When we come back, there's a caller there who wants to talk about grandparent rights. And Rob's got an interesting topic, upgraded beef. Don't go away. Or ungraded beef. I misread it. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back. Let's go to line number 3. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. I'm calling about grandparents' rights.
Okay.
I'm a broken-hearted grandmother, 15 years now. I haven't seen my little grandson. He was 5 the last time I seen him. I got in trouble because I bumped into him the next year, and he was going to Happy Feet Daycare there on the parking lot on Torbay Road there, right next to Chess's Snacks there. And anyway, I bumped into him. I was putting gasoline in my vehicle. And I bumped into him, but I tried to pretend I couldn't hear him because I was afraid because I was threatened by the law and the court for me not to have nothing to do with him. So I tried to avoid him, but he kept on calling me. So I went to approach him, and he hugged me, and all his friends were clapping that he did see his grandmother, and then the daycare worker or, you know, whatever, she told me I had to leave and leave him be, or the police are going to be here to arrest me. So I left the orange store parking lot, and I went down to my home, and about 20 minutes later, the police were here at my residence. And they threatened me at the door, and I told them that he was calling to me, and the lady police officer said I should never have approached him. I was told not to approach him. And then I had to end up going to court with to provincial court, and then it was brought to family court from that. And I tried, and the judge, it was 3 different judges, and the second judge said that they were going to get a mediator in with the child because he's so vulnerable, so young. And I said I agreed on that, but no, the mother wouldn't agree on it, which is my daughter. She wouldn't agree on it. She said absolutely not. So I went to legal aid to get a lawyer, and they told me that I have to go to the mental health part of the legal aid, and I said absolutely not. I have no mental illness. I have been in and out of the hospital, the Waterford, the Health Sciences Complex. I was in there. I tried suicide attempt. Not that I wanted to, but she said before she had the baby, she wasn't going to let me see him. So I tried to kill myself, to be the truth, to tell you the truth. And I was saved by my boyfriend, because if I was left very long, or I would have been dead only for him. Now, he's been her stepdad through the years, and he's been good to her, and he's a disabled man, and he's a really good man, and I got the nicest man in town as far as I can see. But anyway, getting back to her again, she was jealous of me. She didn't want me to succeed in life. She wanted me to be always on a low income, which I still am on, but I'm almost to my pension age now that I'm going to be receiving my pension when I'm 65. Well, I'll be 64 now in March. And I'm decided that I promised my dad, who was 95 when he died, and he was a government official, my dad was, that I will get my education, I will get my 14 credits, because I went back to school when I was a grandmother, when I first became, and I had to give it up because my disabled boyfriend was looking after him, and she was gone off. I had to bring her to school, and I had to bring her to colleges, and I had to bring her everywhere. And she left me in the cold. When I went to court, she brought up all of the things that happened in her childhood, and I was put in complete awe of how she put me down in the family court of a grandmother. I was a good grandmother to that little boy. He loved everything. I couldn't afford to buy him much, but I did the best I could. And the only thing is that he's an Aquarius and I'm a Pisces person, and I'm a lover of everything and everybody, and I try to help. When I see somebody in desperation, I'm right there on the spot to try to help them out if I can. I'm after helping a lot of people out. There's people standing there in a frozen cold by Tim Hortons there. I'm after doing things for different people. But getting back to her again, she always had a jealous bone for me. She didn't want me to succeed. She wasn't very good to me as I was raising her as a mother. Once she became a teenager, she rebelled against me, if you know what I mean. I won't bring up any
I think so.
bones.
Very quickly, though, before I do have to go, is why are you not allowed to see the grandchild? Is it... Did anything happen?
No, nothing happened. To be honest with you, it's just that her childhood... when her father left me, I was left alone, and then I never had much money. Well, I had a trailer home and everything, but the land went under receivership, and I couldn't do nothing about it. And so she was 10 years old then, and then I had a guest. My mother died in 95, and then I'm after losing all of my family members. Since that, I got two brothers left, an older one and a younger one, and I'm the youngest girl in the family. I'm the baby. And I got nobody now. I haven't even got my family members. I'm missing everybody, and she rebelled against my dad, and my dad was the one that kept me going through all the years, because I was on a low income. I couldn't afford a car. I couldn't afford to even get on the bus. I used to walk to the supermarket and get groceries in the rain. I couldn't do it. I couldn't afford it. And she put me down in the court and said I had other things I was doing in my life that were unpleasant scenes and stuff like that. Like, she made up a bunch of lies about me in the court. And when you go to court, you can't lie. You've got to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. And so help me God, right on God, on the Bible. And I did that, but she didn't. But she had a paid lawyer and I had legal aid, so I went down the drain from there.
I'm sorry to hear all of this. You know, it's interesting that most people would only hope to be able to have grandparents in their children's lives for a variety of reasons, and there is no legal grandparent right to access to their grandchildren in this country, which is also quite strange, unless you get leave from a court proving that's in the child's best interest. I really appreciate your time. I wish we had more time, but I have to go to the break. But you take good care. Stay in touch.
Okay, thank you so much, Patty, for your time.
No problem at all. Take care. All right, bye-bye. Bizarre and strange. When we come back, we're going to get a weather conditions update out in Central, and then Rob wants to talk about ungraded beef. Maybe time for someone else too. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Say good morning to the Deputy Mayor, Grand Falls, Windsor. That's Rod Bennett. Morning, Deputy Mayor Bennett. You're on the air.
Thank you, Pat. It's the first time caller for me, actually.
Welcome.
I listen to you every day, but it's the first time calling.
Welcome to the program.
Yeah, we had a little chat about the conditions of the snow we had last night. Grand Falls Windsor got a pretty good dumping last night overnight, and late overnight, all through the night, we had our snow clearing crews out the whole night, and this morning it turned off to rain, got even messier this morning. So, our crew's been out ever since late last night, and they're doing a very, very good job of cleaning the roads. I went to Tim Hortons this morning for a coffee, and I was very impressed when I got to the main road that all the main roads are clear. So they've done a very good job with that.
That's a good thing. So the roads being clear is one thing, but the safe conditions for the motoring public, almost a little different thing. I don't know what it's like in your community this morning, but the slushy Avalon Peninsula conditions is pretty tricky out there this morning, I would think.
The side roads are pretty slushy, but we do have more crews in this afternoon to battle with that, and also more crews taking care of the catch basins and with the expected rain and the warm up. So we do have extra crews in for that also, and I'm looking at my street out there now, and it's looking pretty good actually.
What's the protocols in Grand Falls Windsor for storm drain and catchments to be cleared? Like, what kind of forecast needs to be in place for that to take place?
Well, during the snowfall, when we find we get a thaw, like today, of course, we send as many crews as possible out to make sure that the storm drains are cleared. We just look at the forecast on warm-ups, and when the forecast gets pretty warm, we'll put crews in place to have those cleared.
And how much snow have you received? I got a son out in Gander. He tells me it's been a pretty active winter so far.
Oh, we have as much snow this year than we had the last 2 or 3 years combined. It's a lot of snow very early in the year, and we thought for sure it was going to be gone by November. And in December, January, we'll get a bit of more snow, but the first major snowfall we had stayed, and it just continues piling up on us.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, the clearing of the snow and ice management is the requirement for the community, but what does it mean for your budget?
Well, our budget just started January 1st, so it's early in the year, and the main part of our budget we can get through April, and we will probably come up short or whatever. We'll just add money to it. It's something that you cannot get there and really budget for because snow got to be cleared all the time. No question.
Anything else you want to update us with this morning while we have you, Deputy Mayor?
Well, actually, the town hall was closed this morning, and we'll be reopening again at 1 o'clock. And, Patty, I just want to say a big thank you to the employees here at Grand Falls Windsor who's out doing this today and doing such a wonderful job. They certainly come through, and they're as good as what we have in the province, for sure.
I'm glad to hear it, and I appreciate your time as a first-time caller. Stay in touch.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care, Patty. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. That's Rob Bennett, the Deputy Mayor of Grand Falls, Windsor. Let's go to line number 1. Good morning, Rob. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Happy Monday to you. It's a blustery day out here on CBS. I wanted to bring up, I just found out that there's meat in the supermarkets that are ungraded and brought in from Mexico. That I knew that, and David told me it was also coming in from Australia and everything like that. Like, is this food inspected so we can eat it? Like, how can they sell ungraded meat?
I've asked that question, and it's a good one. We were told that it is inspected, and Canadian Beef Grading Agency is only for Canadian beef. Now, I'm not so sure how much sense that actually makes to me, because, if you go by Canadian beef, it's either Prime or AAA or AA, and there is an actual Canadian Beef Grading Agency, but they told us that it is inspected, but doesn't require a grading because it's not Canadian beef.
Yeah, that sounds pretty sick to me, because I was talking to a few people around here who noticed that lately, because it is labeled ungraded. And to me, myself, I will not buy anything like that. It's just, if it's not graded and inspected properly, it's coming from these other countries. How long has it been in the trucks and this, that, and the other? It's unbelievable that they can sell it.
I tried the Mexican based on price, and I was just curious, and I didn't like it. But that doesn't mean other people aren't buying it because, man, the price of beef. There's a reason why people are attracted to whether it be the Mexican or the Australian beef. But that's basically what we were told. Is grading is a domestic issue. Inspection, absolutely, the beef has been inspected, but to what level and how much of it, and a better understanding of time between when it was gone through an abattoir in Suarez versus when it arrived on the grocery store or in the grocery store cooler here. It's a fair question.
Yeah, no, it's I can't believe that they're able to sell it. Like, we got the 5 big supermarkets, and they're buying it at a bargain price, no doubt about it, and selling it at the upper price. So it's I don't know. It just rubs me raw that they won't stay to our beef, and like we could do why can't they do the moose here and stuff like that and put it in the superstores?
Well, they can.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, like if you go, certain grocery stores are more inclined to carry. Like if I go to Bid Goods today, I can probably find some moose, as opposed to whether or not Sobeys or Dominion or Costco or Walmart chooses to carry it, but there's no good reason why they can't. If you go through a Canadian Food Inspection Agency approved abattoir, then you can indeed sell it, as far as I know.
Okay.
If I can buy it at Bid Goods.
It's just we're not handy to some of these outland stores and stuff like that. Like, we got Taylor's here or whatever, but that's, more fish stuff. But yeah, no, we got to go to town to get stuff. And, just traveling around, it just costs so much more.
Absolutely. The same argument can be made when people are chasing the deals, and by the time they do all the travel to chase a deal, they probably didn't maybe save much in the way of money, but hey, it's their money. They can do as they see fit. I appreciate the time, Rob. I'm going to sneak on one more.
Okay, take care, Patty.
You too, buddy. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Final thoughts this morning. Go to line number 3. Good morning, Joan Penny. You're on the air. Hi, Joan.
This is 11:58. He's not going to get me out for even a minute.
Hi, Joan.
Hi.
Hi. I am getting on for a minute. Go ahead.
Good.
But that doesn't mean other people aren't buying it because... Yeah, that's the radio shagging you up. Go ahead.
No, I've got it turned off now.
Okay.
All right, I'm ready.
Go for it.
Okay. Good morning, Patty.
Good morning.
Joan Penny calling from Corner Brook. I do the Breast Friends group in Corner Brook, the breast cancer support in Corner Brook, and we're having a breast cancer conference in Corner Brook at the Greenwood Inn for 100 participants across the province. We don't have grants. We are charging $200 for the meals and hotel covered. We are fundraising the rest through monetary donations and help cover events. I have contributions and corporate sponsor. Hopefully the government will give us some money. We're having an auction on the go, and I just want to put the word out there to people because the deadline for me to have the canceled rooms at the Greenwood Inn for people coming is going to be January the 22nd. And I wanted people to know, and if they want to call me, text me or call me, 709-632-8548, or they can call Shirley at 709-640-7054. So hopefully we'll get enough money to cover the 100 people. We have about 60 coming now, and it's right across the province, and it'll probably be the last breast cancer support group in Newfoundland because people now I'm going to change hours next year to fall to Breast Friends and other women living with cancer because there's a big support group for that right now. So I wanted to get that out so people can know that this is going on the end of the month. If they want to contact us or any more information, just give us a call.
It sounds good. And listen, feel free to give us a call closer to the date so we can get that information out there, or a last-minute drive.
I certainly will. I'll call you probably another week's time.
I appreciate it, Joan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, good show today. We will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Patty Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk in the morning. Bye-bye.